Reform Sage, Werkz.com, and Bobo Construction. What do they all have in common? You guys don't even know. Okay. You're going to have to stick around. I want the light on that camera right now. There you go. Thank you. Pastor Toby, Chalk Knox, I'm the water boy. And this is Brother Shan Hemphill. You don't even know. Pray for it. I mean, I don't.
Because we got to deal with you.
Shan Hemphill from Werkz, WERKZ.com is with us in the studio, and we're going to have a good time with him.
Yes, he's going to talk about Rittenhouse's situation, situational awareness, defensive tactics.
We need more of that. As you guys know, this is Black Friday just happened.
Oh.
And so tomorrow's what do they call it? Cyber
White
Monday? White Monday.
White Monday.
Is because only white people know how to get on the internet? Is that what it is?
Since everything's race now, might as well be White
Monday.
Monday.
What about Hispanic Tuesday?
Cyber Monday.
It's coming.
You know, because the tacos on a Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday.
So we're encouraging you guys during the month of December. We got this nice man box that we're kind of pairing up with those who join a silver and above.
Yeah.
We are changing out the mugs because if you look at this mug, give me that light right there. If you look at the mug, look at it just right, and the logo is over here. So the company that we're working with.
Didn't we tell him not to do this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Pray for us.
What I say is we actually ordered some new mugs that are going to go out with our man box and everything. And
so you're actually going to get 2 mugs.
Yeah.
You're going to get the old one. You're going to take it camping.
Yep.
Because,
it's a great mug. It's just the logo. They went. Yeah. Anyways, but the new mug I actually ordered with it. It's actually the 10 version of the camping mug. I actually wanted that originally, but this was just a better situation at the time.
Shan said that this mug is what?
This could be a deadly weapon.
Okay. So we basically, is the other one going to be kind of like that too?
Is it still going to be a deadly weapon?
Yeah, it's metal.
Hey, we're doing a show
it's
here.
It's metal.
We're doing a show.
Oh, I'm getting ready for the next. I've already moved on.
Well, now you'll have one
join
deadly
the club,
weapon.
And also go to rowdychristian.com and you can actually order a nice bracelet for your wife or your lady friend in your life. It should be your wife at this point. Fight, Laugh, Feast bracelet. Pretty excited about that. Rowdychristian.com for that. And it's Cyber Monday. And speaking of Cyber Monday,
the Reformed Sage. I don't even know what I'm saying. The Reformed Sage loves biblical theology, evangelism, and coffee. They sell really cool merchandise with a strong Reformed message and amazing. No, really, it is.
Speaking of
coffee. Their desire is that our merchandise and coffee can be a conversation starter with those around you who don't know Christ. And through conversations about a design around a cup of Reformed Roasters sanctified beans may lead them to an understanding of the knowledge of God. Visit Reformed Sage website at www.reformedsage.com where they receive 10% off promo code for first-time buyers. What's the promo code?
Yeah, what is the promo code?
Doesn't say.
You got to sign up on the email.
Merry Christmas, you filthy sinners. Romans 3:23.
Hey, I got an alien righteousness. I don't know what he's talking about. I do love their mugs, though. Look at
that.
This is great.
Okay, what's that?
Ooh, I can do all things through a verse taken out of context.
Oh,
there we go. That's what it says.
I like these fast chargers. When they were at our conference, I loaded up on all their stuff.
What is that?
It's a wireless charger. It's a rapid wireless charger. Pretty nice tomato plug.
You want that, Toby? You can have that if you want.
Wait, hold on.
You already got one.
This is for the studio, though.
I know, but Toby's a pastor.
Boy, white folks.
Here you go, Toby. You can have it.
Whoa.
White folks.
It is White Monday. I see what's going on.
It is?
Not even White Monday yet.
And phone cases and everything. Wow, how about that?
So this past Sunday in Waukesha, Wyoming.
No, it's Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, not Wyoming.
He worked so hard on that.
This is a segue into a news segment. That's what we're working on right now.
Let's do that.
We're getting there. Actually, a very tragic event happened. Darrell Brooks allegedly drove his SUV into Christmas parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin, killing now 6 people. Originally it was 5. Another one died. 6.
Some are
kids.
Yeah,
horrible.
Yeah. Injured dozens.
But this is not the first time Brooks has done anything wrong. He has a whole rap sheet that goes back.
Yep.
He's currently pending on 2 charges in Milwaukee County. 2020 CF 2550, he's charged with 2 counts, second-degree recklessly endangering safety while armed, and 1 count of felon in possession of a firearm. The date of that offense, all 3 offenses, is July 24th, 2020. Believed he was arrested shortly after that incident and remained in custody in the Milwaukee County Jail until released on bail there for reasons of a speedy trial violation on March 3 of 2021. Bail at that time was lowered from $7,500 cash bail to $500 cash bail.
That's
in that
COVID.
case, Your Honor, it is alleged that he got into a fight with his nephew. The defendant fired one round from a handgun toward the vehicle that his nephew was in. The vehicle was occupied by another person, and that accounts for the 2 charges of reckless endangering safety.
Well, pause that real
The
quick.
next day, he was taken
I'll let her finish the next day. He was taken into custody, I think she says.
into custody, and the residence where he was located, he was found to have a loaded 9mm handgun just a few feet away from him.
Okay. So it's funny watching Shan's face, because we've all heard the clip of watching Shan's face. He's like, what in the world? I mean, so you take a gun. Can you just fire a gun anywhere you want?
It breaks safety rules, right? So you shouldn't be doing that. That's a no-no.
Let's put it simply.
Yes.
I mean, reckless endangerment, I would have thought it'd been attempted murder, though. You know, if you're taking a weapon and you're pointing it in a direction of someone,
Right.
and then you're pulling the trigger, the intent, as soon as you pull a gun, is to stop a threat
Never
in a
point a
deadly
gun
way.
at something you're not willing to kill.
Is attempted murder a biblical category?
Attempted murder. Well, you have. If you
think so, yes.
If you aimed a gun and shot somebody in the leg, but you were attempting to kill him, yeah.
So should someone be put to death for attempted murder?
No, not for that. You would actually, they would be put to death for what they actually. They would be
Punished for what they
actually did.
And then
Arm for arm, leg for leg.
Make restitution for what it was
But
they
you
did.
got to finish this clip.
Yeah,
I mean,
here we go.
Yeah,
The handgun was previously reported stolen,
of course.
and he was a convicted felon on that date, so that accounts for the 3rd charge. He's also currently pending in Milwaukee County case number 21 CF 4596. That has a date of offense of November 2, 2021.
A month ago or weeks
He's
ago.
charged there with resisting obstructing, felony bail jumping, 2nd-degree reckless endangering safety in a domestic violence situation, domestic DC, and domestic battery. The allegations in that case, Your Honor, are that he struck the mother of his child in the face with a closed fist. Then as she was walking away from him, he intentionally ran her over with his vehicle.
Whoa!
The vehicle in that matter described as what's believed to be the same maroon 2010 Ford Escape used in the allegations in this case.
Wow.
Police went to his home and found him getting out of that Ford Escape. The defendant ignored their commands to stop, and he tried to run into the house before he was apprehended.
Well, they didn't just shoot him?
At
You
that
know?
point,
They did. That's
so
some
apparently
restraint.
this guy has a rap sheet that goes back to like 1999.
Yeah,
Or what's a
since
public?
He was 17.
Since he was
That's
17.
one thing that's- But the one that he's a felon on, what is it? In 2006, he was convicted of felony statutory sexual seduction for impregnating a 15-year-old girl. So back in 2006, they probably should have given this guy the death penalty.
we knew this guy was a bad dude.
Okay, so that was yes, but here's I think I reported this on the news brief. We've been talking about this since the beginning of COVID. You cannot forget what we did with the shutdowns. This is an absolute fruit. And just draw a line from COVID shutdowns, disrupting the whole court system to make a backlog of 1,600 felons that gives us now the fruit of this man driving on our streets and killing our children and injuring over 40 people.
Right.
Your government shutdown did that.
Your government shutdown
can't miss
leading
that.
directly to the release of violent criminals.
And this is only the beginning.
Violent felons.
You remember when James Coates went
Yes.
to federal prison or whatever they call it in Canada, prison, in commie prison, I think is what they call it now in Canada. James is going in and they're releasing sexual pedophiles.
They released
into
a
the
sexual predator with a public warning that he was likely to recommit offenses on the very same day from the very same prison that
James
Coates was taken into custody.
Pastor James
for
worshiping.
having church services illegally in Canada. Yeah.
Which is insane.
Okay, but
so here's the thing that's really important. We are seeing the breakdown of our society in so many different ways, and one of the reasons is that it can't hold anything together if a table can't hold anything together if you don't have 4 legs for it to stand on. Sure. And so the 4 legs that a society stands on is self-government, government of the family, government of the church, government of the civil magistrate. Okay. Right. And right now, one of the first governments I want to deal with is he can't govern himself. And the first place that notices that he can't govern himself is the family.
Right.
When you have his first conviction, I think is 17 years old.
Yeah.
Like when you have a 17-year-old acting this kind of way that you have to get the civil magistrates
That's
involved.
mom and dad's.
That's mom and dad's fault from the beginning. They failed. We are always, as theonomists, catching heat because in the Bible it says that you're supposed to stone children. Do you believe in that?
Yes.
Listen to that rap sheet again.
Right. Exactly.
Impregnating this 15-year-old girl.
Right.
Punching the mother of his child in the face.
Running her over.
Did you catch that in the clip? He tried to run. He ran a woman over.
He did run her over. That's what it said.
His baby's mama.
Less than a month ago. And was taken into custody and then apparently released.
Yes.
In order so that he could run over more people.
And so you have the family that should have said, we have a problem for ourselves in our family, and he's going to be a problem to society. Right. Let's call for the elders. Hey, Pastor Toby, my son is out of whack, man, and I'm trying to...
He's dangerous.
Could you help me?
Yes.
Okay, it's not being helped, so then now what do you do as a church?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you start warning people. As a church, the church's job is to teach everyone what God's word says about everything. And out there. So family, you give advice to the family. Here's some other things. Have you tried this? Have you tried this? Obviously, there would be room for pastoral counseling. But as he's resistant, he's not listening, then you start calling on the civil magistrate to do their part. But you're also warning people publicly. And this is when you have the breakdown of community. That's part of the challenge here is when everything is atomized. You're just these BBs rolling around in a society, and there's no cohesion, there's no unity, there's no covenant. It matters a lot less when the pastor says, "Hey guys, y'all watch out. You all need to watch out for this guy. He's dangerous. Don't be doing business with him. Don't let your kids around him." But when there's cohesion, that matters. But I think public rebuke, public warnings. Obviously, you walk through steps of church discipline and putting them outside the church. And in a Christian community, a Christian society, that matters. And it's real discipline. But you're also calling upon the magistrate to begin doing his job. Because
you're seeing that there's a breakdown from.
Right. But this guy's dangerous. You need to take care of this.
No self-government. Family didn't deal with it.
Yeah.
Church didn't deal with it. And so now you come to the civil magistrate, the last place before this goes insane, and they didn't deal with it. Right. They acted just like the family, just like the church, and just like the individual. And so now what we have is a situation where people are dying because somebody didn't hold to what the scripture talked about stoning unruly children.
Right. Yeah.
Right? And so, and what's crazy go ahead. I'm sorry, Pastor.
Don't ever be ashamed of God's word.
That's right.
That's right.
Don't ever be ashamed. When they come mocking and saying, look, it says this crazy law in the Old Testament, you say, look at our world. Look at our country. Look at our land. How's that working out for you?
Yeah.
Yes.
60 million babies dead. How's that working out for you? I'm standing with God's word. I'm totally good with this law.
And just so people don't lose their minds in this, because you can see how it could be taken out of context. When we're talking about unruly children, the Bible actually gives a description of what type of kid that is.
I'm talking about
this drunkard.
I'm talking about Darryl Brooks.
That's exactly. Amen.
I'm not talking about some 8-year-old throwing a fit at Walmart.
I'm talking about serial pedophile. I'm talking about serial. This is criminal, violent felon. That's what we're talking about.
And so now, I think the case is scheduled for January 17th is when they're going to have his case. But here's the biggest problem. In Wisconsin, there is no death penalty.
Oh, yeah.
And so if this guy's convicted and found guilty of his multiple murder charges on him right now, the problem is he's going to be arrested and the victims are going to have to pay for his lifestyle for the rest of his life.
And the cable TV he gets in jail.
All of that. They're going to have to pay for his food, his clothing. And so even if the justice system operates, we're at a place right now.
At the best it can do in Wisconsin.
At the best it can do in Wisconsin, justice still won't ultimately be served because he's going to be alive.
Yeah, all the people that have been injured are paying for him.
That's white supremacy right there.
That's a white racial justice system right there, right?
To the extent that white justice means injustice and oppression, that's a bunch of white justice right there. Remember, a bunch of white guys condemned, all these babies to murder Roe versus Wade.
Oof.
As white justice.
So another case I think
Dang.
that happened this past week. This is Thanksgiving. That happened this past Thanksgiving week was the
Yes.
Ahmaud Arbery case.
Yes.
So
The
Rittenhouse, which
ruling.
we're going to get to Rittenhouse in the next segment, but he got all the attention. That case tended to get all the attention, while kind of the Ahmaud Arbery case was only kind of, I think, really live streamed on CNN. That was it.
Yeah.
But anyways, the conviction was handed down this past week.
Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 2, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 3, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 4, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 5, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 6, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 7, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 8, false imprisonment. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 9, criminal attempt to commit a felony. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Dated this 24th day of November, 2021.
So it took jury about 10 hours of deliberation there.
They did not have this 25 hours like the other case.
No. Travis was the son. Travis McMichael. He was the 35-year-old. That's him right here.
Yeah.
He was guilty on all nine charges. He's the one that fired the shotgun. His father, Gregory Michael, he was 65. He was found not guilty of malice of murder, which is the first charge that was brought up here. He was found not guilty of that, but found guilty of all the other charges.
Right.
And then Brian, who's 52 years old, he was the guy that was driving behind.
Rhodey Brian,
Yep,
yeah.
driving behind and kind of videotaping everything.
Yeah.
He was found guilty of 3 accounts of felony murder, 1 count of aggravated assault, false imprisonment, and criminal attempt to commit a felony. He was not convicted of malice of murder and 1 count of felony murder charges, and then 1 count of one of the aggravated assaults.
Third party that was watching. He wasn't helping, but he did kind of block Ahmaud with the vehicle. So that was
at one point. Okay, so that was
part. Well, I mean, that was the way that he was a part of the train of what was going on.
Yeah.
It was kind of
he was an active participant.
He was an active participant. That's exactly right.
So based on what I saw and watching the trial, and of course we talked about this when it all dropped along, and it dropped in an odd way.
Well,
you remember?
Yeah. So
Mama had to push charges.
Well,
this needs to get talked about more.
Yeah, so everybody they missing what's happening with Ahmaud Arbery. I always say right now, Black Lives Matter. I'm not a fan of them at all. I know what they're here to do. They want to reorganize and reimagine America,
revolution.
And they want a revolution.
Yeah.
It's clear if you're going to channel Anthony and JoJo when Rittenhouse is not convicted and pronounced innocent, you are on the wrong side of justice. So to make no mistake about it. Right. But I do want to say there are some observations that even Rittenhouse had to say when he was interviewed with Tucker Carlson. That's like, hold on, look at my prosecuting attorney. They gave me the business. Yep. You mean to tell me our judicial system is perfect?
Right.
You know, and I had to go this, and I think that there is something. So in Brunswick, Georgia, this case happened. I think Ahmaud was shot February 23rd in 2020.
Right.
But there were no charges brought until May.
Because
the
police chief, the DA, the cops were all kind of covering for these guys a little bit.
I want to put it on the DA first. The police chief had his own problems. They were already knee deep in their own conspiracy, and because they had some stuff going on.
They were covering up one of their cops was sleeping around with an informant.
An informant, and they were covering that up. And
it's almost like when you're sinning, you can't see clearly. I don't know.
And because of that, they couldn't see this case. And so, actually, it was 2 prosecuting attorneys. I believe what's her name? Jackie Johnson. She recused herself in the beginning of this when it first happened because the Michaels actually called her, and it actually worked for her in her office. So she had to recuse herself. Yeah, but then the case went to George E. Barnhill. He was district attorney in Waycross, Georgia. He recused himself later, but before he recused himself, because the Michaels actually worked for him at some point too, he wrote a defense basically of why they were innocent and it wouldn't be worth bringing the case. And he basically said that they were in the process of self-defense, they could legally carry their firearms, and Ahmaud Arbery attacked them. Now, that's what the DA wrote to the police, so they didn't press charges.
Okay.
So, and then it wasn't until the DA actually recused himself until Mama Arbery said, "Wait a second, these boys worked for you.
Yeah.
You can't. You have a conflict of interest here."
I mean, notice kind of like as we were talking about this, it's almost like a complete inverse of the Rittenhouse situation, where you've got guys, chasing this guy down.
Yep.
Ultimately gunning him down. And they're saying there's nothing here. There's nothing here.
Right.
It was self-defense. But they're chasing him. Does he have a gun? No, he doesn't have a gun. They've got guns. They got the car. They're talking about driving. It's like, and there's like, oh, there's nothing here. Nothing.
He
here.
has no guns.
And
He's
then,
running
and
away.
Then you've got video footage that we're going to look at in the next segment of every possible angle of a kid getting chased down, and he turns and offers defense, and they're like. That guy's the
he's the aggressor.
He's the aggressor.
Yes.
Charge him with everything right now, immediately.
Yeah.
There's this complete inversion where it's like months and months of no, we're pretty sure they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And there's video footage of them chasing that guy down.
So for this case, I think they handed down the correct verdict to Travis. They found him guilty of basically murder. They had multiple counts, but basically they found him guilty of murder. But I kind of start going through the other scenarios and start kind of thinking like I don't know if I think that they should be convicted of murder. Like the dad, I mean, now they were involved. They should be punished for something. The reckless endangerment, the imprisonment.
The dad initiated the whole process. He initiated the whole process. Remember, part of the thing that the district attorney argued for the Michaels was that in order for them to pursue, they had to see, you can do a citizen's arrest, but you have to see the crime happening, right? And if it's a felony crime, I believe you can pursue. If it's not a felony crime, if you see it, you can engage only up to a point. They have to claim that they saw Ahmaud do something that was criminal. The father is making that claim, instituting to his son to go, let's grab this guy. This is the guy, right? And so he's initiating the whole thing. His son is not acting on knowledge that he knows. His son is trusting his father's knowledge of the situation to be able to make the pursuit and engage. So the father, in one way or another, is a person who is almost like, I don't know a better way to do it, but he's the one who is claiming knowledge of the situation almost.
But clearly in his defense, he was not able to convince the jury that he was actually acting under those circumstances.
They changed their stories more than one time on the bench.
So there you go. That's
from what the written testimony was.
Right. So one of the principles that's going on here is in the counts, you've got malice murder, and then you've got felony murder. And part of what we're drawing off of here in the history of biblical law and Western canon law is it goes all the way back actually to the difference between murder and manslaughter in the Old Testament code. And in Deuteronomy, it uses the example of the guy. It says if he's chopping wood out in the forest and his axe head flies off and hits his brother, and his brother dies, he didn't intend to harm him. That's not murder. But if there's someone who thinks he did kill his friend, then he can run to a city of refuge, where he can be protected. The same thing is at work in Numbers 35. It's talking about the cities of refuge, and it says that if anyone kills any person without intent, they may flee there to the cities of refuge. But if you struck him down with an iron object so that he died, he's a murderer. The murderer shall be put to death. If he struck him down with a stone tool that could cause death, and he died, he's a murderer. For murder, the murderer shall be put to death. If he struck him down with a wooden tool that could cause death, and he died, he's a murderer. The murderer should be put to death. The avenger of blood shall himself put the murderer to death when he meets him. He shall put him to death. And if he pushed him out of hatred, so even shoving, or hurled something at him, lying in wait so that he died, or in enmity struck him down with his hand so that he died, so even with just your fist, then he who struck the blow shall be put to death. He is a murderer. The avenger of blood shall put the murder to death when he meets him. But if he pushed him suddenly without enmity, so you bumped into him, or you hurled something at him without lying in wait, or used a stone that could cause death without seeing him, dropped it on him so that he died, though he was not his enemy, and he did not seek his harm, then the congregation shall judge between the manslayer and the avenger of blood in accordance with these rules.
So it's basically kind of accident versus I intentionally was going to punch him or hurt him, and then you killed him.
Right. And so I think in this case, the distinction that the Georgia law is trying to make between malice murder, that's your intentional, like I hated him, I tried to kill him, and then pulled the trigger and killed him.
Yeah.
And then felony murder is you have these other guys involved who really were trying to harm the guy.
Right.
They whether they thought in the heat of the moment that they were doing good or whatever, nevertheless, they were trying to harm the guy. They were involved in that. And so I think that's what that Georgia law is trying to get at. And the key distinction here is intention to harm. Obviously, there's accidental harm that can happen. And that's what we call manslaughter. But that's different than murder. And that's what the biblical law code begins to unpack here in Numbers and Deuteronomy, and it's what the Western law code has honored for centuries.
I think we need to go back and read that again and again.
Yeah. Numbers 35.
Because here's the deal. When you listen to that, all of a sudden, everything that we think we see in movies and all these court cases, we're like, I can get away with this, get away with that. Like,
I know you can't.
Have you read God's word and how high he values human life?
Right.
You need to go back to the beginning of this, because then it makes you start saying, how do I de-escalate a situation?
Right.
How do I, so
how do I love my neighbor?
Right, exactly. Shan, one of the things that in this case, there are a lot of people, when we first started talking about this, there were some principles we had biblically already. Somebody in the daytime breaks into your house, you don't get to kill them unless it escalates to a particular situation, and you aren't allowed to escalate it there. The other one was if somebody breaks in your house at night, you're vulnerable, you have the right at that point to exercise with deadly force. But if somebody, the way that the laws kind of run too, do you even recommend people chasing folks who steal from you?
No, absolutely not.
Really?
Right? I mean, if somebody stole from you, it's stuff. Let it go.
Really? And let the person go.
Let the person go, right? I mean, lots of bad things happen when people try to confront others, right? I mean, case like this. Great, you tried to pursue them, and you end up they turning on you. How about they turn on you and kill you, or you turn on them and kill them and find out it was just over nothing.
Right.
So the law is long established that you can't try to protect property with deadly force, and that's back
to biblical law, which required maximum penalties are eye for eye, tooth for tooth. Meaning, if someone's harming your property, then the maximum penalty would be that amount of property is paid back to you. But what are the chances that in the process of you trying to get back whatever your tooth, that your eye gets taken out, your head gets taken off? I mean, the whole point, and then Jesus is actually getting at this in the Sermon on the Mount when he says, "You've heard it said, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, but I say to you, love your enemies." The point of it was he was saying, not setting that aside, but he was saying the whole point of that law that magistrates are required to obey, still to this day. The whole point of it, though, was to put a heavy damper on personal vengeance. It's not your job to get vengeance.
Yep.
Leave vengeance to the Lord.
Yep.
He will repay. And how does he repay? Well, that's at the end of Romans 12, and then you just keep reading right into Romans 13, and it says, the civil magistrate's given the sword as God's minister of vengeance. So that's the magistrate's job. Call the police. Don't chase the guy who's stole your MP3 player.
So are
those even a thing anymore?
Is it werkz.com/crosspolitic, right?
Amen, brother.
Okay, that's where I want everybody to go right now during the break.
Check it out.
Cyber Monday.
Get you a holster and a light to go with your gun, and then come back. We're going to break down Rittenhouse's whole escape and self-defense with Shan from Werkz. More Cross-Politic coming up next.
Hi, I'm Robert Borton, CEO of Classical Conversations. Our most precious commodity is time. No one has ever lied on their deathbed wishing they had spent more time making money. They all wish they had spent more time creating a legacy. Our modern education system steals that legacy, steals that time from our children. That's why I'm passionate about homeschooling. That's why at Classical Conversations we want to give you more time to create that legacy, follow your passions, and glorify God. Visit classicalconversations.com for more information.
He makes me a little nervous. Could you make sure he's
keep an eye on him?
Got all his safety stuff right? Because
am I doing something wrong already?
Yes.
He's like,
Don't point this at anybody.
Oh, look, it's the prosecutor of Rittenhouse over here.
Welcome back to Cross Politic on the Fight Laugh Feast Network. Shan and his team. This is Shan of Shan and his team. We've been reading this ad for weeks now.
Yep.
And you're like, who's this Shan guy? He's here. He's
In
studio with us. Shan and his team at Werkz specialize in concealed carry holsters for pistols with lights. This is him.
This is it.
They believe
Here?
every defensive pistol should have a light and a holster. They currently offer holsters for 1,274 pistol and light combinations.
Not enough.
Plus, can help outfit your pistol with a light. Maybe, Gabe, you should ask him about getting your light fixed on there.
I did. Well, no, I didn't ask. Neil actually helped me install my light correctly that you gave me.
Because he came in the studio earlier today, and it was not installed correctly,
Shan.
shall we say.
It looked like it, though.
That's not good enough.
Well, appearances are all that matters, right?
Oh, man.
Right?
Hey.
And feelings.
We'll get there.
Ouch. They actually have a holster finder. So you can go to werkz.com /crosspolitic and be prepared to defend day and night.
And I'll tell you what. I think Shan's got me convinced. After Neil helped me install my light correctly on my 9, I got a Glock 9 17.
Yeah.
And everything.
We see.
Yeah, I got it right here. I got it right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's pretty smooth on how that light.
You can
fits.
actually reach the light now, can't you?
I know. I had it installed at the very end of the gun because it looked like it just kind of fit at the front of the gun.
Oh.
And had that little lip on it that kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you did the thing where if you shot with it, it would eject itself off the front.
Yeah, probably.
It actually ejected itself off the front when he tried to pull it out of his holster.
Yeah, and I'm like, man, this just doesn't seem right. And Neil took it. Anyways,
Thank you, Neil.
But Werkz.com. So it's
That
pretty.
was his first. He was like, wait a second. It came off when I pulled it out.
I know. I was like,
So
I'm not
I'm
getting
glad
it.
that you're close by him.
Shan is the founder of Werkz LLC, which equips citizens and professionals with holsters for their light-bearing pistols, which we just talked about. He's carried concealed since 1990, which is like before we were born.
For the OJ trial.
I'm just kidding. We were born for that. Yeah. And started Werkz in 2010 out of a passion for designing holster solutions. Realizing the lack of quality holsters for pistols with lights, Shan focused the company on providing light-bearing holsters. Shan's high-tech engineering background helps drive detailed improvements in both the design and manufacturing of light-bearing holsters. He established Low Light Defense, which you can actually go to lowlightdefense.com, which is kind of like Shan's blog of sorts, where he's writing articles about
Research too, like research.
on this, yeah.
Yeah, there's real data in there. We've got laboratory equipment around lights that actually can measure all the light output of the light that you've got on your pistol, for instance.
Wow.
Yeah. So he established that to provide the community with quantifiable and unbiased information on weapon and handheld lights. So he's just trying to give you the data. You can see for yourself. Shan holds a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science and MBA. It's a Master of Business Administration.
I didn't know the MBA.
And a Juris Doctor.
I knew that. I was already feeling like a fool when I knew about the doctor thing. Now I feel even.
What position in the NBA? Point guard, shooting guard?
He's a member of the Oregon State Bar.
Oh my goodness!
Really? Oh, that's okay. Yeah, you tell me that. We're gonna talk about that.
So it's like business, legal, and he can write you a computer science program.
Yes, software. Yes, or systems. Yes.
So you came in the studio. What was it? When was it? Last Wednesday? Last Thursday?
Yeah,
I think last Thursday. I think it was. And
Thursday.
And so we were talking a little bit about Rittenhouse trial, what was going on, and just a little bit about how well managed Rittenhouse was and the training that was going through. And in that process, I was like, man, why don't you come on the show and walk us through kind of the whole situation of Rittenhouse from the beginning to end? And I'd love to get just your insights on what happened, tactical things that he could have done better, how we need to engage. Should we have even been out there in the first place? All that. I kind of want to just hear you, somebody who's a specialist in this, deal with the situation.
Well, so. Yeah, and when we look at this situation, there's a lot of people have been talking about should he have been there at all or not. That comes down to a personal decision, right? You can be there. You can be trying to defend property. You can be trying to put out fires like
that's
he was,
legal.
right? I mean, that's all legal, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he was a little bit naive about the amount of danger he was actually in.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you could fault the kid for that, but man, when he was making decisions in the heat of the moment, I don't know if I could make decisions so good.
Wow.
Right? I mean, the tension's been building all night, and then he runs to the other car source with a fire extinguisher, and he's running and walking all this distance, and then he gets ambushed. I mean, yeah, we can see the video here if you want.
Take us through some of these clips.
Yeah.
Yeah, hold on there for a second. This is kind of interesting, right? And this video calls out this so-called first shooter, which is, it's almost like there's somebody walking around with a handgun that is trying to escalate the situation, right? And you'll see here in a minute when Rittenhouse is being chased, this guy lets off a shot up into the air, apparently, because nobody's able to find it, but he lets off a shot up into the air, and that's part of what caused Rittenhouse to turn around when he did, right? I mean, he's in full sprint trying to get away from Rosenbaum.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then he turns around because he thinks he's getting shot at, which is, you also see him do the same thing at the very end of the videos, right? After all this is done, he's trying to finally turn himself in.
Yeah.
So, I'm wondering where the heck this shooter is.
Right. Who's that guy?
Yeah, who is he?
Because he actually agitated the situations to the point that, would it safe to say that Rittenhouse thought that he was being fired upon, and so he retaliated at that moment, you think?
Yeah, he even testified that, I heard a shot and I turned around.
Yes.
And at that point, Rosenbaum was on him, right? So keep on going.
So the orders you hear about yelling no cameras, white boys.
So you can, for people who are listening via audibly, the video is kind of highlighting what's going on.
And this is J is
Joseph Rosenbaum,
and K is Kyle.
That's
Rittenhouse.
correct.
Okay.
And so you can see him. Joseph's been chasing him already
Kyle,
in this clip.
yeah.
For 10 seconds, 20 seconds, whatever it is. There's Richie with the guy at the gun.
Going into the car dealership.
Yeah, Richie is Richie McGinnis, there's actually charges against Kyle for him, and his testimony was actually pretty much in favor of Kyle.
Okay.
Right. So, yeah, he was a reporter.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So right here you see like Kyle's running and he's being chased.
Yep. And actually, you see, and so he's running, he's being chased. He turns around one time to see what the distance is.
We'll see that in this video, I think.
Yeah. And right here, you see that, Kyle's getting kind of bunched up in the cars there, and Rosenbaum is almost on him. And the testimony from the court was that he was diving and maybe even put his hands on the weapon. Right. Now, here Kyle is in a unfriendly environment. There's fires going on. There's been people. I mean, in the other drone footage, you can see guys stomping something like 20 feet from him. Mm-hmm. Right. So this is a bad environment. He's very
volatile.
He's ran into, presumably thinking, hey, I'm going to put out a fire, do a good thing. And now he's in it.
Right. There's the shots.
So again, for those who are listening audibly, it looked like Joseph finally reached out his arms for Kyle, and that's when Kyle shot.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty good there.
What was that?
Oh, wait a minute.
Those are gunshots in another place.
Those are other, yep.
Because Kyle's already running around the vehicle, right?
Yeah.
And he runs around and he
comes right back around.
Yeah.
He circles back around.
Because so he's thinking at this point, do I administer aid? I think Kyle, there's another, if you keep playing, go ahead. You can see Kyle actually jump on his phone at this point to call in what had happened, right? So you see him jump on the phone. He's calling. He's doing something. He's trying to figure out how to help him in some way. And then he supposedly hears, right? Hey, get him. He just shot somebody.
Yeah, he's hearing the crowd say, "Get him!" Right? I mean, this is other drone footage, and it's actually pretty good too. But
so in this one, you see them running at the right side of the screen.
Yeah. You can see Rosenbaum throws a bag at him.
Yep. Kyle just turns around in presentation, but he doesn't point directly at him. He's trying to figure out what's going on.
And so
boom,
right there.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and Richie McGinnis, who's again the Daily Caller reporter, he says, yeah, you know what? Kyle kept his weapon at low ready until the point where Rosenbaum was lunging at him, basically in contact distance.
Yeah.
You're in a riotous situation.
Yeah.
You're alone. You're armed, and somebody's trying to take your weapon. That to me seems like justification for self-defense, because you know that it's going to end up badly, at least with severe bodily injury.
Right.
Probably with death. Even if somebody takes away your weapon in a situation like this and throws it away, whatever, you now have no way to protect yourself in a riotous situation. We know from history that those can often end up deadly. You don't need a gun to kill somebody.
It seems like in this situation, again, my instinct is to think through, so I'm curious to bounce some of the sort of biblical principles off of you. As you're thinking about this, I'm thinking of things like, you mentioned earlier the law that ordinarily, if we're talking about just your property being stolen, we would say you don't use deadly force to stop your property from being stolen.
Not during the day, not when the light's on.
Unless it's dark. And that's a biblical law. And the point is because in the dark, you don't know what their intention is.
That's right.
And it's okay in situations for self-defense to assume the worst. It's your house. It's dark. Now, if you've got one of these Werkz lights on your pistol, then maybe you can see what's going on. But nevertheless,
you better know what's going on. The law still holds you accountable for knowing what's going on.
But if somebody's trying to steal your gun, and it's not just property in that sense. In that sense, it's property, but it's lethal property, and you don't know what their intention is. It's like being in the dark in a certain way. It would seem to me that would be the principle at work there,
I think you know what their intention is. I actually think that if somebody's trying to take your weapon, you know
they
what their intention is. They want to use it against you, or they want to disarm you so that they can do that.
Overpower you.
That's severe life-threatening harm.
If everybody knows this, if a police officer has his gun reached for by any individual, what is he to think?
Yeah.
Right? If you're reaching for your gun,
your life is in danger.
Their life is in danger. That's exactly right.
And that's the principle then by which you then are able to take self-defensive measures.
Yes. And Kyle waited till the absolute last second. I mean, you go on the internet, you get a bunch of people that comment, yeah, that's one thing. But, I've read comments by more established defensive people, and they're like, he waited maybe even too long to deploy this sort of defensive, force.
Right.
Which is to his benefit in this particular situation.
It is because the prosecutor ran him through the ringer, and if there was any sort of crack in his decision making, and that's what we talked about last week, is I'm amazed how he waited till the absolute last second, and then those 4 shots were actually able to disable what it was apparently a determined attacker and a fairly athletic attacker. He was gaining on Rittenhouse fairly quickly in that drone video.
Right.
Fairly athletic attacker who was older, perhaps more capable, trying to take away his weapon.
And who liked kids. You like kids.
Thanks, Gabe.
Yeah, but also the point being he fired those shots and they hit his target.
They hit his target in a way that disabled his target, right? I mean, there's a lot of times where you shoot somebody that it does not disable them.
Right.
Despite what the movies tell you, a handgun shot, a rifle shot does not immediately disable an attacker. Right. I mean, later we've got Grosskreutz who's, gets shot in the arm.
Right.
He's still pretty capable. Right. Actually, he still held the pistol.
Right.
Right.
Interesting.
Okay, so now here's a clip from Tucker Carlson interviewing Rittenhouse this last, I think it was Monday. last week, Thanksgiving week.
Where did you first see Rosenbaum?
The first time I saw Rosenbaum was the first time he threatened to kill me. It was at the corner of the car source lot that I was at primarily that night, and I was asking people if they needed medical, and he came up to me and Ryan Balch, and he said, "If I catch any of you MFers alone, I'm going to effing kill you."
Had you ever seen him before?
I have not.
So you'd never seen this guy. He walks up and threatens to kill you out of nowhere.
Yes.
Wow. So that's the guy.
That's the guy.
That's the guy that's chasing him down.
He was making good on his promise, right?
And so this is not just random guy in the crowd. This is the guy who had threatened his life already.
Yeah. And by the way, tactical lesson here. Somebody just threatened if he ever catches you alone, he's going to kill you.
Right.
You're alone.
Right.
Go with a buddy. Yeah. Go with a few guys. Right. I mean, this is a bad situation.
Right.
That's one of the things he should have actually.
And by the way, maybe Rittenhouse was told to go here by himself. I did not listen to that testimony. But whoever told him to do that, if that's the case, probably shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Kyle's here. He is a 17-year-old kid trying to help things out.
Right.
You know, send people out in pairs.
So if you're going to be out there, if you're going to do this, you need to make sure you're at least two or more. I've heard of who was it? Jesus said something like that. this is
2 by 2.
This is just the beginning, because now, as everybody knows, it gets ruckus, and this is where training
just gonna
and
stop us
patience,
right
there, man.
Right
so
there.
so you got to come back and hear how Kyle handling himself.
What's going to happen?
We kind of know the end of the story. More cross politic coming up next.
Man, this is crazy.
I hadn't even drinking on my bourbon yet.
It's third segment. You need some, Toby?
Where's mine?
I don't know.
Welcome back to Cross Politic.
There you go.
This segment is brought to you by Glenn Morangi.
They're sponsors?
Not officially. No. Not officially. Not officially.
Speaking of, we do got a sponsor on this one.
Do we?
Really? Okay.
Did you read your notes?
Oh no, I'm just pouring some.
You should read your notes as you're opening this.
Bobo?
Bobo.
What's a bobo?
Bobo. All right, read my
I'm about
notes.
to find out what a bobo
Christians
is.
need to start thinking about doing business with fellow Christians. No, this isn't a plug for our FLF business listing. This is a plug for Bobo Construction Incorporated.
Oh, okay. Ooh.
Are you a developer, architect, or project owner? If so, I have a Christian commercial construction company you should be partnering with. Bobo Construction Incorporated. It's a fourth-generation, family-owned general contractor that was founded back in 1952. Their motto is, whatever is fair and right, that's what we do. I like that. The Bobo Construction Incorporated headquarters is in Sacramento County, California.
That's nice.
And they are defying vaccine mandates.
Hey,
I like that.
Nice.
Yo,
you know
golf
you want to
balls.
hire these people. Bobo Construction Incorporated has recently expanded into Idaho and eastern Washington with offices in Meridian and Coeur d'Alene, and is in search of potential partners to wage war on tyranny with, a construction company that wants to wage war on tyranny. I'm down with this. Bobo Construction is, what do? They do any commercial project from $0 to $80 million. Some of their past projects include retail, office buildings, schools, colleges, sustainable construction, and industrial facilities. To learn more about Bobo Construction Incorporated and fight tyranny with them, go to www.boboconstruction. That's B-O-B-O Construction Inc. INC.com. You can also contact Austin Bobo at bobo@boboconstructioninc.com or call him. He's just giving his number out.
He's doing it live on the air. All right, Bobo.
208. That's an Idaho number. 789-0995. It's 208-789-0995.
Well, and as I understand, these guys are actually expanding into Idaho.
Oh, nice.
Because of the problems that's going on in California.
That.
Yeah.
I was just trying to
You know what?
Just handing out boxes.
go. Yeah.
They gave us some golf balls, but they didn't.
Oh.
But they didn't only give us.
Is that,
okay,
is
so
that for you?
for everybody who doesn't know,
Is that for you?
they're laughing because Knox, fell out of a golf cart.
Knox does not drive Golf cart.
Pastor Toby left me, and the spirit departed, Ichabod, and I fell out of golf cart. And they were not only giving us golf balls.
I could just tell things were going downhill.
Oh, funny pun. These guys not only gave us golf balls.
You guys, you didn't get the.
I didn't get that hat.
You didn't get the Army one.
But I'm trying to say something here.
Yeah, all right.
They gave us golf balls, but they also gave me a nice little warning. Said, Knox, be careful in the golf cart. Hey, Austin, thank you, sir. I appreciate the wisdom.
Can't wait to meet those guys. They sound like fun.
Man.
All right, so where we leave off?
Where were we?
We were getting to the exciting part
of the Rittenhouse,
where we really get a chance to see Kyle's situational awareness. How would you describe this?
I would say it's split-second decision-making, even under stress of already been involved in a deadly attack after having run many blocks. I mean, he's making really solid decisions as far as withholding the use of force.
Withholding, not actually using force. You said withholding the use of force. That's interesting.
Right, underline that.
Yeah, that's really good.
So now we're after the first initial encounter.
How much time has elapsed between these two? Do you know, Shan?
What I had heard from testimony is that from the first encounter to the time things start getting ugly here is about a minute, I think.
Okay.
Of running.
60 seconds.
So
really close.
He ran to the car source with the fire extinguisher, not light, and he's got a little bit of a kit. And then he got involved in a deadly shooting, which, there's going to be a huge adrenaline dump.
Yeah,
so that messes you up. And now he's back running. So...
Okay, right there.
Hit?
Go ahead.
Did he get hit there?
Yeah.
Yeah. The testimony was that he had gotten hit in the back of the head with a concrete chunk.
Oh.
And then he got hit with the skateboard. Right.
So this is the concrete chunk right here. Then is that part?
Must have been. Yeah.
No, he's down.
So why did he fall down there?
Kyle said that he got hit with a rock, and maybe that's why he fell. I mean, he said
someone
that took
threw something.
So he got hit with that concrete chunk or a rock or whatever, and then he got hit with a skateboard that he partially deflected with his arm and hit him in the neck.
Well, that hadn't happened yet.
Huber hit him twice. Actually, the testimony was that Huber hit him twice. Once with a skateboard when he was running, and then it knocked the skateboard out of Huber's hands, and Huber retrieved it and then came back and said, "Hey, you want a little more? I'm going to give you a little more." Yeah, so we got jump kick guy there.
Okay.
And Kyle shot at him twice.
Okay.
And missed.
Okay.
Right, but here again, Kyle's waiting until somebody is actually within contact distance or actually physically contacting him before he deploys force. And here he is. He's downed on the road with a mob closing in, some of whom are, Kyle knows, rocks, skateboards. Yeah. There's a dude later with a metal pipe. There was a scene where guys carrying a 2x4.
And he's heard gunshots before.
Yeah, he's heard gunshots and when he left the scene in the other place.
You're a sane person, so you might not be able to answer this question. But what comes over somebody who does not have a firearm in their hands to run up to a person with a very efficient firearm and try to kick them?
They're emboldened by the mob. They think that they can do so safely.
Mob crazy. That's what this is.
I think so. Yeah.
So are they expecting it at all? I mean, it's hard to get in the head. But when you're in that situation, do you think they expect not to get shot?
Yeah, I think that they expect. So I think that they expect to be able to close in on him fast enough, get that weapon, wrangle that weapon from him, and potentially, rely on the idea that maybe Kyle won't pull the trigger. I think that they're thinking, that their buddies are closing in. I'm going to get help. We're going to get this guy, and we're going to disarm him, and then we're going to put the business on him.
Okay, so jump kick guy just came, and
now we got Huber,
skateboard guy back.
Yeah, he clobbers Kyle in the neck, back ahead with the skateboard, right? Swung by the trucks.
Yeah. And that's so right at that point, Kyle shoots him as he's.
Yeah. So So Huber he's trying to disarm Kyle, right? So he grabs the weapon by the barrel and basically directs it at his own chest.
And Kyle shoots.
Kyle shoots, one shot. Huber walks off and collapses.
One shot.
One shot.
Not seven.
Not seven.
Right.
One. So
he grabbed the barrel and then was trying to pull the gun away, but at the same time pulled it too.
Yeah. So this is another lesson, right? Kyle's got the weapon slung, which makes it a little bit harder to get that weapon off of him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
but that's still amazing self-control to only fire one shot.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody's yanking your gun, and he can pull that trigger a lot more.
Yeah,
and only fires one, enough to lets go.
Yeah, he lets go. He staggers off, and Kyle stops shooting. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, most defensive training, you shoot until the target is down, until they're no longer a threat.
Yeah.
Because Kyle doesn't know. He doesn't know if he hit the guy. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't even know whether the guy's going to walk off and come back and try to inflict damage on him, kick him in the back of the head, right?
So here he sits up, and I think he's clearing his chamber.
No, he's not clearing his chamber.
So apparently it had not actually completely sent the bolt forward from that last shot. So he has to use the forward assist, which is actually on AR-15s. It's a button. So he has to get it back into the action. Yep. And then that's what he's doing.
What he's doing.
Okay,
here.
so just that. So you just had a guy. Come on.
Now. Yeah.
You just had a guy come
hit by concrete.
Yep. You're on the ground.
Skateboard 2 times.
Yep. And then
jump kick guy.
And so you fire your weapon to get him from grabbing your weapon, and you're able in that moment to actually see that your chamber is open in some sense.
Yeah. So maybe what happened, and I don't know. I did not hear testimony on this. Maybe there was. Maybe what happened is he tried to fire more than one time against Huber, felt a dead trigger. Yep. That would be a sign that if you're doing some training, okay, my bolt is not home. I got to get my gun back into the action quickly because I got a dude with a gun standing in front of me.
Right.
Oh, that makes
So that's
okay. Yeah, hit pause right there, Gabe. That's Gage Grosskreutz, right?
Grosskreutz, yeah.
Kami Grosskreutz.
Yeah.
And he shot his arm.
So Grosskreutz, so when Huber gets shot in the chest, Grosskreutz kind of jumps back and kind of holds his hands up and kind of crouches a little bit with his pistol up in the air. And Kyle does not take a shot at him.
He's got a pistol in his hand.
And Kyle does not shoot him until Grosskreutz, some people say he was feigning surrender. And then he decides to go ahead and bring the pistol down, pointed at Kyle's head. And that's when Kyle shoots blows his bicep apart.
Right.
And he, again, one shot. Grosskreutz, his arm goes down, but he's still holding that pistol. He's got a Glock 27 in his hand. He's still holding that.
Yeah, but
even after his biceps blown up, he's still holding.
Because he's holding the gun.
But he does. He's the one. Is he the one yelling medic?
Yeah,
yes.
He is.
Yeah. So he kind of immediately, it at least is indicating.
It disarmed him, basically.
I'm out of here. Yeah. I need a medic.
I have gone through this multiple times. I think it was the New York Times or New York Post, I can't remember which one, put out the full video, and they documented everything and walked through the whole piece, and I was surprised how well that they did this. First of all, how we have so much amazing footage of this.
Right.
And it's amazing. The second thing is, why do we have so much amazing footage of this? Right, like why are people too comfortable being out in this situation? They're filming, even though they're not getting shot at. They're watching the situation, and they're filming people shooting each other, and you just are comfortable with that environment.
Well, and some of the footage is from the FBI, who's hanging out.
Wow.
Shut up.
Wow.
Watching, yes.
Right. I mean,
wow.
No, I didn't know that part.
Yeah, some of the highest quality footage is FBI, and some of it, the evidence ferry left on the prosecutor's doorstep partway through the trial.
Really? The evidence ferry?
Yes.
Surprise.
Hey.
And it turned out to be something that the prosecution said, yes, it shows how Kyle was covering people with his weapon.
Oh man.
I'm sorry. So you mean to tell me that
Biden's FBI,
that the FBI was there and didn't engage?
There's FBI footage. I don't know
how much so then they know these people. If they want to find these people, if they can find people on January 6th, surely,
yeah, right.
If they out here, they can. So
you would think that the initial gunshot guy that caused Kyle to turn around might be found someday.
Yeah,
was it jump kick guy? They found him so late inside the game. So okay, yeah. So that makes so.
Or they found him early and they just didn't disclose it.
What kind of training does it take to be able to think like this in the split second? Because I'm looking at this, man. I walk through stuff. My dad was military guy, trained me to think a particular type of way about situations. So I'm always running through. But when I see this, if you've ever been in a fight and you've had your adrenaline maxed out, been able to even punch with the power that you have, it's not the same. You have to be trained how to use that adrenaline, to focus that adrenaline, to think clearly, because if you've never had a gun pulled out on you, you don't understand how you're really going to act, right? If you've never had, you have no idea how you're really going to act. And everybody who I've seen it, like some of the church situations that have a gun pulled out on them, their response time is so slow.
Yeah.
Right. And because they've never been in that situation before. But here Kyle is, I don't know if he's ever had a gun pulled out on him before, but his response and engagement is so sharp. His Odo loop, right?
Yeah.
Observe, orient, decide, and then act, right? The Odo loop, right? You go through that process as you go through things. And his was operating at a fascinating speed.
Yeah. I think he was quite blessed in that regard, right? I mean, everything from him holding off and making decisions the last possible second, or maybe even beyond, and the shots of people, when people are trying to take his weapon, the fact that he was able to disable them so quickly, right, rather than having an assailant that now is just slightly injured, he was totally blessed, right? I think that some of this was just the blessing of God, because I don't know how you train in the situation, right? I think you could end up with a lot of guys with a lot of training that wouldn't have acted quite this well, or they would have come in with a lot more bravado and injuring
maybe
more people
have been injured.
Yeah, than necessary.
Yeah.
Right. And Kyle, even here where he gets up, there's gunshots going off, and he thinks he's being fired at. He turns around, he's like, I can't see anybody, as a target, so I'm just going to keep on running. And he's not running extremely fast, but boy, what great decision making by this kid.
Yeah. So are you telling me then that you can't train for this?
No, I'm telling you can train for this. You've got to keep training. You've got to have the right skills, right? When he knew his weapon was dead and he needed to get back in the fight, if you don't have any training with an AR-15, you're not going to know what to do
his
at all.
His instinct was, he just did it instinctively.
Right. Yeah, it was, okay, I know, I've trained, I know what this is. Go ahead and hit that charging handle.
You want to finish this clip just real quick? I mean, it's exactly what Shan just mentioned. His turns around, can't see any target, and so he just starts jogging. Here you got police officers finally coming.
Who are these people in the street?
Right.
I mean,
who's that guy with the gun that just walked by?
That was an officer.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
So here's Kyle running towards the police.
Which, by the way,
putting his hands
obviously not a threat, right? I mean, he's running with his weapon slung on his chest, kind of close on his chest.
Right.
Obviously not a threat, which is what he had been doing ever since the first incident with Rosenbaum, demonstrating how he wasn't actually a threat, even though these guys came and were jump kicking him and trying to take his weapon.
Yeah, and he puts his hands up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's his hands up.
And gets sprayed by the police, pepper sprayed. Yeah.
And they actually told him to go home that night.
Yeah.
And then they arrested him, I think, the next morning or the following morning.
He turned himself into his local police department because he couldn't actually get to Kenosha.
Because Kenosha was their police department was so busy.
They were closed for business.
Yeah.
So there's a couple, there's so much I want to talk to you about, Shan. And anything you want to jump in here, jump in. I think we've seen enough happen in America. We've seen everybody knows that their city is subject at some point or another here. If something goes wrong that BLM doesn't like, or they want something that they're not going to get, our cities are going to pay for it. Minneapolis was ransacked and destroyed, right? And so it even tried to happen around here, to the point that people, right?
And northern Idaho.
By the way, I was actually here in Moscow when there was stuff, and I was hanging back, just trying to make sure things were good.
Keeping an eye on things, though.
Yeah, I was keeping an eye on things. I was not obviously armed, but I was keeping an eye on things. I was also in communication with people within law enforcement, just to make sure that things didn't get
Well, I remember
riotous.
when the riots were happening. I don't know what city was that in.
That was Coeur d'Alene.
Over in there's one in Washington, outside of Seattle.
Yeah.
Where there's a great shot. It didn't get a lot of press, but there was a whole line in downtown, this little downtown city, and it's like
it's one of the sheriffs that's been pushing back too.
East of Seattle, and you had cops and private citizens standing in a line with their guns, standing there peacefully.
Yep.
And in that evening, when you have those riots going on, you got these cars pulling in, people pop out. They see a line of people with not in our city.
Not today, Satan.
And then you see them get back in their car and they drive off. And it happens, a number of times throughout the evening.
And that happened in northing Idaho too.
Yeah, I think it happened in Coeur d'Alene as well. And I think there were other places where people working with law enforcement, saying, "Hey, you're not going to destroy our businesses. You're not going to destroy our city. We're going to defend our lives and our property here."
Why weren't you armed when you were out there?
I don't think he said he wasn't armed.
I was not obviously armed.
Okay.
I
was concealed.
Word. When he said that,
I was concealed. I did have a long gun available.
Yeah.
But it was tucked away. Safely, obviously.
So do you think it would have been better if we would have had more people out there that were armed like Kyle in that situation? How does one deal with that situation when they know they're going to have a problem? And remember, Kyle's out here because this is day 2.
Yeah, because he had seen footage of what happened where 100 cars were burned at CarSource.
Right.
Yeah,
and his dad and family live in Kenosha.
Yeah, he was apparently a lifeguard in Kenosha.
Right.
Yeah. So what do you? I mean, how do we engage that? Because I'm honestly, there was parts of me that I was thinking about, like when I saw Minneapolis going up in flames. I got my mom and my sister there. I'm thinking, like, do I need to show up in Minneapolis? Like, what's going on? I don't know anybody on the ground. I don't have any contacts there that I would want to go with me. I got a lot of friends there, right? I got family there, but I don't know people who probably want to be on the street with me. Do you even, if your police force is, look, they're burning the police station in South Minneapolis, right? Mm-hmm. Off of Lake Shore, they're burning the police station. If your police are giving up and they're gone,
right.
What are your options at that point? Stay in your house and hope they don't come knock on your door?
Or stay in your house and hope they don't torch it with you inside. I mean, really, it can turn into a rather hot box to be in.
Yeah.
So I think we've got to look towards a little bit of leadership for one. We've got to have the right leadership that's going to stand up and say, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to do this the right way. We're going to do this in conjunction with appropriate local governing authorities,
lesser magistrate.
But we're going to do there, and we're going to be there, and we're going to be there. Again, you're not going to shoot somebody because they're torching a car or because they're breaking into an unoccupied home. But if you're inside an occupied home and you're inside a business, or even if you're occupying a car, under Idaho statute, you actually you get a presumption if somebody's breaking in with violence or with stealth, you've got the presumption that you were in legitimate fear for your life.
Because again, you are allowed to assume biblically that they have malintent.
Yeah.
that they intend to harm you, and therefore the presumption of innocence is on your part to defend yourself.
So when you say stealth, somebody who's like secretly trying to get in, you don't know.
They secretly broke in, right? They kind of found a crack in a window and they just kind of slid it open, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, at least under Idaho statute. Idaho statute is one of the best out there.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so we got a strong could you walk through? I want to do this before we go with just a little bit of castle law, kind of like
Well, yeah. So if you're in your house, it gives you that presumption, right? Again, okay, somebody kicks in your door with some violence, whatever, right? It gives you the presumption that yes, you were in legitimate fear for your life, right? That you can use that deadly force, and that person was actually so. Self-defense law is based upon mostly what you knew at the time. And you could actually have a mistaken assumption, right? So you're like, hey, somebody shoved a gun in my face. I shot him. Well, you may find out later that it was completely disabled.
Or a BB gun or whatever.
Right. But you didn't have the responsibility.
But the situations, would it be reasonable for you to assume that? So, so that's what self-defense law is based on. And so again, when you're in your house, somebody breaks in the middle of the night, right? You have that assumption on your side. And actually, Idaho even has some jury instructions codified to give you that sort of benefit of the doubt that, you've got, go back to my notes here. And I stole these from one of the better commentators, Andrew Branca. And, you've got innocence. So you can't have started the fight, right? I mean, you can't basically you can't be the guy, hey, I shove a gun in your face and then you pull a gun on me and I shoot you. Well, no, you can't do that.
Right.
That's exactly what happened in the Ahmaud Arbery situation. That's right.
They pulled guns.
Yep.
They escalated the situation. And then when he responded to defend himself, then they shot him.
Yeah. And that's just not self-defense,
that's not
right?
Self-defense, right?
You're bringing that aggression. Then you've got imminence. It's got to be happening or about to happen. It can't be like revenge for something a little bit ago, and it can't be. Well, he
punches you in the face, he walks away, and then you still shoot him.
Yeah, or even he walks up to you and says, "I'm going to kill you tomorrow."
Yeah, right.
You can't just shoot him. Or in the case with Rosenbaum, if I find you alone, I'm going to kill you.
Right.
Okay, you can't just shoot him then.
Right.
So then you've got proportionality, right? So deadly force met with deadly force, non-deadly with non-deadly. You can't be, somebody punches you in the face and then you shoot them, right? Unless there's other circumstances, right? You're down on the ground, there's a mob, that they're gonna.
You've already been hit by concrete.
Yeah. The way that it's escalating, the way it's going, it doesn't end well for you.
Exactly. Right. And then avoidance. Can you have avoided the fight? Well, that's where these quote unquote stand your ground laws or castle doctrine. No state requires that you flee your home, right? Because your home is traditionally the safest place ever.
It's your home.
So law does not require that you flee your own home. But in some states, it may require that if there's a safe place to go, that you go there if you can retreat safely.
And you see that going on in the Rittenhouse situation. I mean, he's
running away.
Every situation is running away from his assailants.
Yeah,
clearly trying to avoid having to come into direct conflict with them.
And then the last element is reasonableness. So was it reasonable? Would a reasonable person have done this? Right. I mean, if you've got a screw loose and you're like, think everybody's out to get you, you can't just go start shooting people.
Right.
So castle doctrine gives you almost all of those elements by yourself, right? So it assumes that you're acting reasonably, right? If somebody's breaking into your house, they smash a window and they're crawling through, you can assume that they're going to be doing bad things to you. That gives you the assumption of reasonableness. If they're doing it right now, that's imminent. Proportionality is, hey, somebody's committing a felony to get into your house.
Right.
Well, that is assumed to be deadly. And avoidance, there's no way to avoid it. So, and innocence is kind of a gimme, right? You didn't start it, right? You're in your home. So castle doctrine, and that is that we do have code in Idaho that looks like that. That gives you almost all the elements.
Now, how does that work? You're just talking about in the house. How does that work on the streets? The same setup on the streets?
So castle doctrine doesn't work on the street because it's not your castle, but then there's the duty to retreat side, the quote unquote stand your ground. Some states have it, some states don't. It really comes down to being reasonable, right? Yeah. If you see something happening and somebody's shooting at you from 100 yards away, right? Mm-hmm. And you're right next to brick or concrete. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, maybe instead of pulling out your long gun and sighting him in, maybe you just walk around, right? So, you've got to figure out, okay, can I get out of this situation? There's going to be a jury somewhere in this that's going to be looking at it, and there's going to be a prosecutor, sometimes a malicious prosecutor.
Sometimes.
Most of the time, probably. They're incentivized to be malicious.
You don't want to put yourself in that situation. You honestly want to get out of there, right? And the other thing is if you've got a chance to escape and you can do that without putting your life at risk, your loved ones at risk, other people at risk, do so because it's going to end up better for you, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Rittenhouse probably spent, I don't know, $1 million on that, that defense.
Yeah. It was an investment, though,
and he went to jail, and his whole life. I mean, your long life,
his whole year,
the whole year, and he killed some people, right? Whether or not you are justified, you still have to live with that, right, Toby? I mean,
that's right. Yeah. And in this case, again, it looks to me like he was acting in a just way, and I think he can hold his head up high, and thank the Lord for how God protected him in the moment. Yeah. And I think he did really seek to protect life. But that's absolutely a heavy burden still to carry. I think we need men though, like Kyle. We need men who are willing to start. I mean, I think the biggest shame in all of this was how alone he was. And again, maybe there were other factors in all of that, but we need men to be men, and we need men to stand together with other godly, faithful men. You need brothers in arms. You need to be a part of a church community. You need to be part of a broader community so that you're not on your own, and you can look to one another and you can say, does this seem like the moment? Is this how we're going to stand? How are we going to defend? Because, when the police aren't showing up, you do need to protect your people.
That's right.
But our job is to do it. I mean, the founders of our country, they were not trying to burn it all down. That's what the French revolutionaries were doing. But what the founders of our country were trying to do was actually maintain the order that allowed for freedom. That's what they wanted. They wanted to maintain the order that allowed for real Christian freedom. And they were objecting to tyranny and oppression coming from the British Crown. We're in a new situation, but there are some parallels. Yeah. And I think it was, honestly, frankly, men like Kyle who were part of the American Revolution that were willing to say, you know what, this is, you're not protecting our rights, so I will.
Yep.
We are at the place where, anyway, I don't want to add to that. That's really good. I was just thinking about the fact that you got Kyle out there protecting Kenosha, and things are so bad in Minneapolis that you got the Vice Lords and the Crips out there protecting the north side of Minneapolis. Right. Because a pastor had to make a call, and he ain't had no police to call, so he called the Lords. And they were the ones protecting from the other thugs.
Right.
That's just how messed up the situation is. Right. So, Shan, what's your blog again that we can go to?
Yeah, so lowlightdefense.com, just lowlightdefense.com has all sorts of weapon light data, so you can choose the best weapon light for you. We've got no sponsors, no skin in the game, other than we want people to make the right decision, and then hopefully we can outfit them with the right holster and gear for them to carry.
Yeah. Hey, and then go to Werkz.com where they can find all the
/crosspolitic.
Thank you. WERKZ.com/crosspolitics. So, hey, appreciate you, man. Thank you for being a sponsor here for us.
Thank you, Shan.
Thank you. Thanks for all you do, guys.
So if you're single, get married. If you're married, have kids. And if you have kids, go baptize them. Until next week, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politic.
Welcome to No Quarter November. My name is Douglas Wilson. I'm glad you decided to join us. Now, some people want to know, what is it about November that makes us want to burn things? What's with that? There's a little libation for those evangelicals who think I ought not to be drinking stuff like that. The reason we're doing this is not that we think that there's a moral obligation that we have to be incendiary, because we don't have a moral obligation to be incendiary. What we're saying is that the world has mysteriously, for some bizarre reason, become flammable. So, the world is flammable. Everything catches fire these days. All you have to do is say something like white babies or something like men shouldn't have sex with unstable women. Things that would have gone past without comment in a saner time. But we don't live in a sane time. We're not incendiary people here at Cannon Press. We are ordinary people, normal people, in a flammable time. And that explains why things burn in November. The basic point of No Quarter November on my blog is that normally, 11 months out of the year, when I say outrageous things or things that I know that people will take as outrageous, I make a point of qualifying it. I call it, it's not always in the second paragraph, but I call it the second paragraph rule, where I say, now, when I say this, I'm not saying this and that and the other thing. I qualify, and I qualify, and I qualify. And nobody pays the slightest bit of attention to my qualifications. And so I decided a few years ago that let's see what happens when I don't qualify anything. If I just speak the truth, what happens then? Well, check in No Quarter November and you'll see what happens then. My exhortation to all of you is that if it seems like everything's gone nuts, if it seems like the world's on fire, just keep doing what you're supposed to be doing. Just stay with whatever your plans were. Keep doing what you ought to be doing. Stay at your post. Ignore the world. See? Well, I gotta get home for dinner.
Kiss the sun, sing the song if you be his prophet. Black Swan with the boy sling. Came alone, bringing stones.